You're listening to the Huddle Up Podcast with Chad Jensen and Zack Kelberman. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com and sound off. And now it's time to drop some knowledge.
Okay, we're live. We're going to let the stream breathe just for a minute. Make sure it's nice and stable. Well, not a minute, a couple seconds. Welcome in, everybody, to the Huddle Up Podcast, presented, as always, by Mile High Huddle, empowered by Overtime Media. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me, as always, my partner in crime. You know him, you love him. He is Zack Kelberman. Zack, as is tradition on this podcast, we take a day or two off, and something of, high magnitude happens on the newswire for the Denver Broncos. Yep. And even though the main crux of what I want to talk about tonight involves Phillip Lindsay, I got to get your thoughts on the Denver Broncos. I know you kind of warmed to the idea, thinking the Broncos toward the end there were going to end up picking up the option, but they declined Garrett Bowles' fifth-year option. Your gut reaction?
My gut reaction is what Elway admitted. He said everyone's frustrated with Garrett Bowles, and that's exactly the resounding opinion of the guy. He has a first-round pick in 2017. He hasn't lived up to billing. I don't pride his ability on the turnaround he had late last year. He's not worth the money they would have paid him. I think it's the right call, Chad. They can still renegotiate after the season, so they're putting him on notice right now. We're taking away your fifth-year option. We're taking away contractual leverage from you. If you can perform well, we'll talk after the season. If not, you're replaced. It really is his last chance, and the Broncos, I think, are doing the right thing by not holding his hand or babying him. It's enough of that already, Chad. It's his fourth year in the NFL. He's in his late 20s. He's a first-round. Enough's enough. Crap or get off the pot.
I think you're right in that I think there are multiple factors, obviously, and anything as complex as contracts and NFL players and the whole nine yards. There are multiple factors that go into any given decision that a team makes on a player. And I think the primary one is you're absolutely right, and that is that the Broncos are sending Bowles a message, and that is that, hey, we love you. You're our first-round pick from a few years ago, but you got to step your game up. You got to prove to us that you're worth an investment. A real investment. Not to say that his number 20 overall draft pick slotted contract is nothing, but we're talking about if they would have picked that up, he would have been making $11 million in 2021 on the fifth-year option. The other factor to consider, and this is something that was sussed out in an article today by our Bob Morris, is that the Broncos probably had additional financial considerations in play here when it came to the mitigating factors, and that is that had they picked up the fifth-year option, he would have been hitting free agency instead of in 2021 like he's now going to be scheduled to hit. It would have happened in 2022. Well, the problem is in 2022, you've got several other big-time Broncos hitting free agency, whereas in 2021, if he turns out, takes the message well, turns the ship around completely, plays well under Mike Munchak, protecting Drew Lock for 16 games, and the Broncos decide, you know what, he indeed is our franchise left tackle, let's pay him. There's less competition in terms of players demanding their attention for big contracts. Whereas in 2022, had they picked up the fifth year, Cortland Sutton, Phillip Lindsay, Alexander Johnson, there are going to be multiple Broncos hitting unrestricted free agency that they would also have to contend with. So that's just, it's all pieces of the puzzle, but it was not a simple matter of, he has a lot of penalties, so we're not going to pick up the fifth year.
To me, it's good business. We've always rued the Broncos contracts, what they give out to Bryce Callahan, $21 million, Juwan James, a record-setting $51 million contract. For once, Elway's doing the right thing and making him earn it. They put him in a competition with Elijah Wilkinson. You're saying it's not even guaranteed you're going to start this year. So they took that away from him. They took his financial comfort away. He is making him earn it. Elway's making Bowles earn it. To me, it's the right move. And it's surprising. I thought he'd pick it up, Chad, because he is a first-round pick. He was the first-rounder after Paxton Lynch. We know Elway's loyalty to his first-round picks, but I like the way he's being. It's not a preference. He's not tilting the field in anyone's favor. He's no more different than any other player on the roster, Chad. He has to earn his way or he's going to be gone.
Yep, and for a guy that we have seen express different forms of entitlement over his first 3 years with the Denver Broncos, I don't think it can hurt to send a message to Garrett Bowles. It's kind of like the takeaway. It's a sales technique. It's part of human communication as well. But when you take away an option, it's kind of like when you date a girl. Instead of blowing up her phone when you're first dating someone, you wait, right? You take it away. You spend some time, let her wonder, is he into me, whatever. It's a takeaway. You take it away and it draws people in. Same principle here with Garrett Bowles. And they're taking away what he thought was a sure thing probably for a while there. And they're putting the onus on him, making him have to rise to the occasion if he's going to indeed not only capitalize on his career, but, basically repay the Broncos for their patience and faith and what they've kind of gone through on his behalf for the last 3 years. But it'll be fun to break it down as we inch closer to hopefully training camp in July, according to John Elway. They're still holding out hope that that's going to be the case. So we'll see. But guys, tonight, what we want to talk about is Phillip Lindsay, which a really interesting conversation came out, which we will play for you here in just a minute, between Phillip Lindsay and Terrell Davis that actually kind of dropped the facade. When Melvin Gordon was signed by the Broncos back in March, Lindsay mostly said all the right things publicly. But now we're kind of getting to the truth of how he really felt in the moment, and we're going to get to that here in 1 second. But first, guys, a couple of quick matters of business. We want to welcome in everybody who's been hanging out in the room. Steve, Jerry, Bronx legend, Robert, Jeff. It's good to see each and every one of you. Guys? Also, hello to our Facebook audience. We've missed you guys for about a week. Right. Hopefully by now you guys know the story. But basically what happened is we did a no-no as it relates to Facebook, and that is we streamed part of a television broadcast of the draft on the night of the first round, and that put us in Facebook jail in terms of live streaming for a whole week. So we're glad to be back with you. Guys, before we dive into Phillip Lindsay, see what's on the minds of our Super Chat superstars, let me go through a couple of quick matters of business. Make sure, as always, that you're following the show on Twitter at HuddleUpPod. So many of you have done that, and it's been great. It's been so cool to connect, especially our YouTube audience and people on Facebook as well, but people on YouTube connecting with us there and letting us know who they are. And sometimes the names don't match, so it's good to know who's who. But that's how you keep your finger on the pulse of what's happening with this show in real time, is you follow us on Twitter at HuddleUpPod. And while you're at it, make sure you follow the main account at Mile High Huddle for breaking Broncos news and analysis as it's happening in real time. And if you're in a position, guys, with things beginning to kind of open up in different parts of the country, loosen up a little bit as it relates to the Q word, you still want to be safe. You still want to protect yourself. Go to huddleuppod.com if you're in a position to do so. Get yourself a Mile High Huddle mask. Get yourself a hat, whatever. It's another way that you can support the show. And if something like that is not in the cards, that's okay. Just make sure you like this video, whether you're watching on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, like this video. You guys, I'm telling you, you have no idea how much that helps Zach and I and the entire channel when you simply like this video.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
All right, Zach, we're going to get to the Super Chats and what's on everybody's mind here in just 1 second. First, rather than reading a quote this time, especially since it's on social media and it's not on a live television broadcast, I'm going to just play this quick conversation. It's more of a remark from Phillip Lindsay that he had with Terrell Davis. I think it was an Instagram live, and I'm going to share audio. I want to say maybe Friday, but I could be getting the day wrong here. I'm going to go ahead and play this. How does that look? Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Here's what I want to talk about. Phillip Lindsay talking about his initial reaction to the Melvin Gordon signing. Here we go.
What was your first initial reaction to it? And then I'm sure you had time to think about it. What's your feeling now? So what was your first reaction to Melvin?
I mean, so me and Melvin, we known each other for a while because we went to the Pro Bowl together.
All right.
So, we know each other there. I did not know that, he was going to be coming with us to the Broncos.
Right.
I mean, it would caught me off guard because it was like, okay, I done put in work and did all this, and it makes it seem like, okay, they don't respect you enough to know that, the work you're putting in.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really upset for at the beginning. I'm not gonna lie, right. But then I start to think. Then I start to, like you said, you start to think a little bit more. You start to down stuff, and I'm like, okay, the thing is this: if something happens to me or something happens to him, it's hard now. You know what I mean? When I was in the game, stuff was still not going as well and smooth. But if you have somebody that can compliment me like I did my rookie year, where I'm not just running up the middle trying to get first downs all day. Right. Now it's like, okay, now take some pressure off me. Now I can do my job and use my speed and use my stuff and stay healthier too. On top of that, Melvin's a really good running back, and the thing is this, Melvin, it's not about no feelings. It's about for him, it's about feeding his family and stuff. Like if someone's gonna offer you something like that, you're gonna take it. You know, my biggest thing is, hey, you know, I'm gonna do my part. At the end of the day, when I get in the game, whether it's 5 touches, 10 touches, one of them is gonna be a touchdown.
Right.
And that's how I look at it. I don't need no 20 touches. I never did. I mean, I don't think I never ever got 20 touches. But like, give me 5, 6, 7, 10. I'm gonna break one of them. One of them gonna be break. And I just think that for us to get to where we need to be, we need more people around us. And I think that's what Elway did, was just add competition and add more depth so that we don't like the next person goes in and can do the same stuff. I think that Melvin compliments me well, and I think I compliment him well. And I think that, you know, once you get through the pride stuff and you guys work together, you know, we can be a hell of a tandem. But, you know, at the end of the day, I have to do my part. My part is, when I get the ball, make big plays, get first downs. That's what I'm going to do.
You do your part.
All right, so let me stop the share screen real quick. So many interesting things jump out there, Zach.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously his maturity and his ability to kind of gut the emotional aspect, the pride issue that he talked about, the disappointment, the hurt feelings. To be able to put that aside and focus on the big picture and how it affects him overall, how it can affect the team and help the team help him. I mean, there's a reason why it's not just related to what he was saying, but there's a reason why those explosive plays that led to his Pro Bowl rookie season were a lot fewer and farther between in his second year. And he's not wrong. A lot of the reason why is there was no complement. Now, there's also a rookie offensive coordinator and a, carousel at quarterback. There are a lot of mitigating factors, but nevertheless, having a guy like Melvin Gordon, as he talks about, is going to give him an opportunity to kind of get more bang for his buck when he's on the field. But I appreciated, Zach, and then I'm going to serve this to you, that he was willing to admit that it really upset him initially, and then he had to kind of tweak his worldview.
Yeah, I do. A bunch of things jump out to me about this little snippet, Chad. I do appreciate his candor, his truthfulness, his honesty there. He was hurt. He was upset. First of all, can we take stock of how much he's grown more confident speaking to media, Chad? A couple of years ago, he was shy, he was timid, he was passive, soft-spoken, and now he's really lashing out, and not lashing out, but he's speaking out about himself, and he's holding himself down and holding himself in a high regard. I like to see that. Third of all, he doesn't really blame Melvin Gordon because he realizes it wasn't Gordon's choice to sign him. He's going to take the money. It was $16 million. Who wouldn't want that? But he was projecting what he wants for himself, Chad. He wants to feed his family. He wants a big money deal. He wants to be the guy. So he's kind of talking through Gordon about himself. And I like what he said there. He's still going to make his plays. He's still going to do his thing. And he's going to make the Broncos take him off the field. He's going to make it very hard for Denver to not play him or play Gordon ahead of him. I think it's going to make both running backs better. But everything he just admitted, Chad, is what we said he would feel after the Gordon signing.
Yeah, man. And it's still just, again, one of the things that was so disappointing to me about Melvin Gordon getting signed by the Broncos wasn't that the Broncos paid a running back. That wasn't the worst thing to me. It was that it basically guaranteed that money was not going to go to Phillip Lindsay. And that's what, because no team in their right mind is going to pay top dollar to 2 different running backs. It's one thing to kind of spit in the face of the football gods by paying top 5 money to a running back. But to do so for 2 different guys at the same time concurrently, it's just not going to happen. And that writing was on the wall when the Gordon signing was made. And so unfortunately what it tells me, Zach, is he's going to play his 3rd year in 2020. He'll be a restricted free agent after this season. The Broncos will tender him. That'll represent a serious raise for him for 1 year. He'll go from making about $500,000 per year to, depending on which level they tender him, upwards of $3 million or more for 2021. And then after 2021, he will be an unrestricted free agent. And that will also coincide, Zach, with when Melvin Gordon's contract runs up. So at that point is when the Broncos will really have a decision to make. They're going to have to pick one or the other. Am I going to keep Phillip Lindsay around, or are we going to try and keep Melvin Gordon around? Only time will tell. But Bronx legend jumping in early with a $5 super.
Thank you, Bronx.
Appreciate you, my friend. We're going to be sending you out a hat here as a bona fide Super Chat superstar, one that looks just like this. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be coming. It's going to be put in the mail this week. So give it a little time. It'll get to you. And then once you get it, make sure you reach out and let us shoot us a selfie so that we can shout you out and give you some love. But he says, Lindsay said all the right things. Definitely going to have a successful career. Always humble. Hashtag state of being. Hashtag Denver Broncos for life. Definitely humble, but also definitely confident, supremely confident in his own capabilities. The one last thing. To this day, you can go all the way back to high school. We'll see if Melvin Gordon can be the first, but no running back that has ever crossed paths with Phillip Lindsay has been able to keep him off the field.
That's right. Yeah, I saw a lot less humility in these comments, Chad, a lot more confidence and swagger in himself, and that's what I like. We wouldn't have seen that from the 2018 Phillip Lindsay, and I just think about it's one thing to pay a running back, but a former rival player, when your own homegrown guy who was a sixth-string running back worked all his way up, 2,000-yard seasons, a Pro Bowl. What more does he have to do? I would be pissed off, too, if I was him, Chad. But he framed it the right way. He said, always bring in competition. It's going to make him better. I love how he handled those remarks, Chad. A little bit of humility, but a lot of confidence.
And in his own way, sending a message to Elway as well. That, look, I probably don't need to telegraph this to you, but, I mean, that bothered me. I mean, I have blood, sweat, and tears. Right. Phillip Lindsay, the reason why I kind of broke my own code and advocated for the Broncos to pay Phillip Lindsay, because I understand it would require, something close to an Austin Eckler level deal pre-Melvin Gordon signing. The reason why is because he single-handedly carried this offense for 2 years.
Yep.
Drew Lock came into the picture in week 13 and things really started moving in the right direction. But up until that point, it started and stopped, began and ended with Phillip Lindsay, and I felt like he deserved some recognition for that by way of the love language of the NFL, which is money, contracts. Pay him, show him the love. Edward jumping in, $5 super. Appreciate you, my friend. MHH, Mount Rushmore member, sporting the T-shirt like a boss. Appreciate you, Ed. He says, let's go Broncos. So ready for this season. Great work, guys. Denver Broncos for life. Hashtag state of being, and hope everything's going okay for you, Ed. And that goes to everybody out there listening live or after the fact as a podcast. Hope you guys are all feeling, I hope things are turning around for everybody, Zach.
Yeah, I'm excited for the season, too. We're supposed to get the schedule, I think, May 9th or May 7th. So sometime soon, maybe even this week, we'll know the schedule. And depending on the London games, how those shake out, the Broncos might not play in London, but it's getting closer, and I think we're going to have a normal full season. So I'm definitely excited about that as well.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Christian is one of our Super Chat superstars who has reached out and connected with us on Twitter, which is really, really cool to see. Jumping in, $5 super. Thanks, bro. Do you guys expect the Broncos to sign a veteran offensive tackle in the coming days or wait till next season to get a new left tackle? Zach, it sounds like the Eagles are going to re-sign Jason Peters, or at least it's looking like it might happen, all right?
That's fine.
Even if it didn't happen, the one thing that kind of, to me, removes Peters as a plausible option for the Broncos is that he's going to demand a starting job. I mean, that he's earned it, right? He's how many times perennial All-Pro, Pro Bowl caliber left tackle, even though he's long in the tooth, he's paid his dues, and the Broncos aren't about to sit down Garrett Bowles. The whole point of this not picking up the fifth-year option, I shouldn't say the whole point, but one of the big points is to try and light a fire under him and see if he can eventually, in 2020, become that complete left tackle, franchise caliber tackle. Bringing in Jason Peters to supplant him and taking the job from him, that defeats all of that.
But can beggars be choosers, though? I mean, Jason Peters might want a starting job, but there's obviously nothing out there for him. It's why he's still a free agent, unless the Eagles bring him back, but that doesn't look very likely. If I'm him, I'm thinking of the Broncos long and hard because he's one snap away from replacing either Juwan James or Garrett Bowles, two of the most tenuous starting tackles in the entire NFL. They have a young up-and-coming offense with Drew Lock, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, the rest of them. I would think long and hard about it if I was Peters. But even if he does re-sign with Philly, still Corey Glenn, still Kelvin Beachum, there's good options out there. And to answer the question, yes, I do see a veteran tackle coming into the building, I think sooner than later.
Terry jumping in, speaking of Super Chat superstars, up in Canada, proving the MHH adage that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is a state of being. Appreciate you, my friend. Hashtag state of being. Hashtag Broncos world. All right, let me see All right, we grabbed. Bear with me 1 second. I want to grab this comment from Charlie real quick, and then we'll grab a few more superstars. Hey, you go undrafted, make the team, put in 2,000-yard seasons, and see some other guy come in and get the money. I wouldn't blame him if he feels a bit put out. Exactly. And, I think there's a little bit more intensity around those feelings than even he let on in that conversation. He's smart enough to know that this has the potential to be broadcast to millions of people. But, Zach, Phillip Lindsay is a guy that you don't have to worry about where his heart is. When he's on the field, as long as he's healthy, you're going to get peak effort from that kid.
I mean, but look what he's making this year, Chad. $750,000. I mean, in the NFL, that's nothing. That's a pittance in terms of salary. Melvin Gordon's making, $80 a year now? He's one of the highest paid running backs in the entire NFL. I would be ticked off as well. I want to feed my family. I want to take care of myself. I want to put money in my pocket. I feel like I've earned it. He has to go out and prove that, though. I do think with a big season, he knows he'll get a deal from the Broncos or some other team.
It's hard to put into context how rare it is for a running back to eclipse 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons, especially to open their career. There's only 4 running backs in the history of this club. Think of all the 1,000-yard rushers, right? There's only 4 running backs in the history of this club that have posted back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons, and Phillip Lindsay's one of them. The last running back in Denver to do it was Clinton Portis in 2002 and 2003. And then you go back it wasn't Mike Anderson. I think Terrell Davis. And then there's one more I'm missing off the top of my head. But nevertheless, it's rarefied air that he finds himself in. And Dennis points that out here with a $2 super. Thank you, Dennis. Phillip is a class act, period. That he is.
And let me talk about, remember when C.J. Anderson barely hit the mark, Chad? I think it was 2017. He barely got there, and we were all rooting for him. It was such a huge deal. Well, Phillip Lindsay did it twice. If that doesn't earn a big deal, like what is going to? A Pro Bowl, being an undrafted guy, being from Colorado, putting his all into the team, doing everything asked of him, he deserves to get paid. I am right there with him.
A true bona fide superstar and MHH Mount Rushmore member, George, jumping in, $20 super. Thank you, George.
Amazing.
We so appreciate your generosity and passion and membership in this community, man. We love you.
Yes. Thank you, George.
He says, Lindsay has every right to be a bit upset about the Gordon signing. Lindsay has proven himself over the last 2 seasons and deserved better. Let's be realistic here. Lindsay was the heartbeat of this team since he arrived.
Yep.
That's another thing, Zach, that just makes his trajectory so remarkable is the fact that, just this morning, in fact, I was, clicking around the internet doing my thing, and I came across that ESPN feature. I think it came out about the time of the draft 2019, Zach, and it was the feature that showed him he still had his wrist cast on from his surgery from the end of the 2018 season, living in mom and dad's basement, helping dad cut up trees in the front yard, and just kind of going through that whole process of going undrafted and the whole 9 yards. Teams lying to him, getting his hopes up, telling him they were going to draft him or whatever, including the Broncos, right, and then not coming through. For him to go from not even invited to the combine, not drafted, to even making the Broncos roster out of camp, the odds of that are so minuscule and slim. Right. He beat those odds, and then he manages to wrest away the starting job. Now, granted, it took a injury to Royce Freeman in week 7 for him to fully become the guy, Phillip Lindsay. But he already had posted, off the top of my head, I want to say it was 3 100-yard games from scrimmage before Freeman went down with that high ankle sprain. Just his production from that point forward has just been remarkable.
Then he paid his own way to Orlando for the Pro Bowl, Chad. I mean, what more do you want in a player? What more do you want in a person, a player, an individual? He's earned his money. I can keep saying it, but I am Team Phillip Lindsay. And Broncos fans, no offense to anyone, they can be so fickle. Before Melvin Gordon, it was pay Phil, pony up. Now when Melvin Gordon came along, it's Phil's expendable. No, he's a really good player who deserves to be compensated as much or more than Melvin Gordon.
You know what? I hate to admit it. I hate to say this. I agree with you because even today I was in a Twitter battle with I can't remember who it was off the top of my head of a guy that's basically saying, why would you pay Phillip Lindsay? He's a running back, blah, 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 blah. I'd bet dollars to donuts that if you clocked that same conversation even 4 months ago, his perspective would have been completely different.
100%.
He deserves a contract. He deserves an extension, et cetera, et cetera. So at least have some, if you're one of those, try and maintain some intellectual honesty on the subject. Paybe is why 8 jumping in, $20 super. Thank you very much. Means a lot. It's very good to see you. I just want to thank you guys for all you do. Very informative and enjoyable pod. Thanks again from Iowa. Oh, very cool. From Nick's home state. Very cool. Appreciate you. Let's grab Cody here, and then we'll grab a few other supers. Who are your 3 tight ends you keep on the roster? I'd go with Fant as the number 1, Big O from Missouri as the backup, and Vanette as the veteran in the room, Austin Ford on the practice squad. If it really boiled down to 3, Zach, it would kill me, but Andrew Beck's probably not making it if that's how the roster math shook out. I believe we kept 4 respectively on our 53-man roster projection last week and included Andrew Beck on both of ours. I'm absolutely certain, in fact. So I that's how I see it, because he's not a fullback necessarily by trade, but he has the most experience if and when Pat Shurmur has those situations where you do need that kind of a utility from one of your tight ends, pop in, lead block, whatever it might be. But if it really did come down to 3, I think those are the 3. It's going to be Fant, Alberto, and Nick Vanette.
When I projected Beck, I was being a little idealistic, Chad. There's no way they're going to keep a 4th tight end just to play fullback every other snap or so. So, yeah, I think the big 3 are pretty much set in stone. And barring an injury, Hireman's gone, Butt's probably gone, Fumagali's on thin ice. The 3 have to be Fant, obviously, Vanette, and Alberto. It's cut and dry.
Fearless Frank 4 on Twitter says, could have avoided this by signing Lindsay to a new 3-year, $6 million deal this year. I'm not sure he would have taken that deal.
He'd laugh at that, yeah.
I mean, $2 million. Now, look, again, far be it from me to necessarily advocate for paying running backs top of the market money like it's no small feat. But even Lindsay, by virtue of those back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, his agent would be telling him that's not a deal we take. So,
unless that means 6 a year over 3 years, so 18 total.
Okay, and
that's a little more manageable.
Yeah, that's it. That's right in the pocket of about where I would have expected it.
Yeah, anything to compensate him. If they did it with Chris Harris Jr., Chad, they gave him $3 million. Do the same thing with Phillip Lindsay. He's making under $1 million. There are punters, including Sam Martin, making more per year than Phillip Lindsay. It's ludicrous.
King Hicks, super chat, superstar, bona fide, jumping in. Really appreciate that.
That's
generosity, my friend.
Thank you.
Off the top rope. Yes, you are off the top rope, my dog. I've missed the last 2 pods because I'm an essential worker going hard to make sure everyone gets their packages. Awesome, dude.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, we appreciate you, bro. Got to show some love. I've missed my MHH family, coming for a Mount Rushmore spot. # Cali love. Dude, straight up, you're already approaching it. You're a bona fide superstar, and I mean, your membership in this community, when you're not on a live pod, whether you're super chatting or not, your absence is felt. So it's good to see you. Glad things seem, that you're able to stay busy. Your job, everything's cool there. And I know all of us are appreciative that you're keeping the supply chain rolling, baby.
Yeah, I mean, Mount Rushmore title aside, you're awesome, King. We definitely appreciate all your contributions. Even just talking with us, we look forward to interacting with you. So thank you so much for what you've done and what you continue to do.
Since Facebook has been neglected the last week or so, let's grab as many as we can tonight. Andy saying, guys, are you judging the money or the players? Do you want a Super Bowl victory? The Broncos will be a running team this year. The new weapons will be an added plus to get us to the promised land. The money, the issue, again, that's what broke my heart, figuratively. When the Gordon deal was made, I said it earlier in today's show, it means you can't pay Lindsay right now. You just can't. No GM is going to pay 2 running backs in the same year. Now, there's an exception to every rule, and who knows? Maybe Elway's the first GM to do that in the modern era, but that's one of the reasons why it kind of upset me a little when the deal was made, is because I knew what it meant for Lindsay.
It's kind of like our critique of the draft, Chad. We don't necessarily hate the player. We hate the allocation of resources. I don't necessarily hate Melvin Gordon. I just hate the money they spent for a quote-unquote backup or a 1B to Lindsay's 1A. But I take umbrage with the question or the comment, are the Broncos a Melvin Gordon away from winning a title? Is that going to push them over the top? I don't think so. It's going to help the offense. It's going to make them more explosive, but they're going to still be a passing team too. They drafted three wide receivers on top of having Cortland Sutton wasn't already. They didn't draft any running backs, so they're obviously going to take to the air more. Melvin Gordon's not going to be Adrian Peterson in his prime. He's going to help the offense out. He's going to keep Lindsay fresh, catch some passes, but earning $16 million? I don't know about that.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Speaking of which, Buona Beast, you guys might have noticed that we made him a moderator. We call him the mayor of our YouTube community there at Mile High Huddle on. And by all means, he's absolutely that. But he and I have been talking, and we brought him on as a official MHH staff member. And it's really cool. This is something that we've talked about on the podcast before, Zach, but I can think of probably, I don't know, half of the staff members at MHH. They cross paths with me organically, not because someone submitted a resume to me or was looking for a job or anything like that. It just happened organically, whether someone's commenting on, MHH Facebook's page, like Nick, that's how I found Nick Kendall, or someone who is very passionate, outgoing, like Buona Beast in the comment section here on YouTube, and really kind of, keeping the community thriving and happy and everybody feeling the love and whatnot. And so he's going to help us out. And there's a lot of different things that Buona's going to do to help us, including, keeping the chat streams clean and tight and make sure everything's flowing well. We'll kind of talk more about how that will unfold in the days and weeks to come. But yes, Buona Beast is officially MHH, and we congratulate him, welcome him in. He's going to be not necessarily producing content like everyone else at MHH in terms of, Zach and I will make a video. Zach and I will do a podcast where you'll hear our takes. We'll write an article or column or whatever. Buona Beast's impact will be more on the behind the scenes kind of things, but who knows? You never know. He knows he's got an open invitation if he ever does want to test his hand at writing or whatever the case may be. So we'll drop some more hints on that as we get a little farther into this summer.
Very well deserved for Buona. So congratulations to him, and we love having you aboard. And you see him in the chat section. You see him on other pods, dropping links, interacting, encouraging, likes and support for the podcast. So Buona, we appreciate you, and we continue to work with you. And we look forward to the partnership.
Absolutely. Angela jumping in from Canada, a bona fide hashtag state of being super chat superstar. We really appreciate you, Angela. You. So consistent. She says, been a while since I've made a live pod. I so want Lindsay paid, likely a couple of years. Great to hear that Locke is working with Dad. Great drafts and concerned about 2022 and all the second contracts. Yes. Speaking of what she's bringing up here, working with Dad. So Drew Locke's father owns 7 restaurants in Kansas City. All right. What's been one of the hardest hit industries in light of the last 6 to 8 weeks across our country? Anything in the hospitality industry, including restaurants, have been crushed by this virus that's been going around. And so it was interesting, Drew Locke, and maybe we can talk about this either later on tonight's pod, deep dive more on it, or maybe we save this for tomorrow. But together, they made an appearance on Friday on The Drive, 104.3 The Fan, with Darren McKee, D-Mac, and Andy, his father, and Drew. And they talked about Andy did, how he's had to roll with the punches in terms of his restaurants going through what's happened the last 6 weeks. And that was really interesting to hear how they've managed to kind of weather that storm. And obviously nobody's out of the woods yet in terms of surviving this financially as business owners. However, it's cool to hear that Drew's doing what he can to kind of help his dad.
How do you not love Drew at this point? I mean, everything about the guy, off the field, on the field, he's just such a commiserate and professional guy, just a complete person overall. In terms of the comment, though, about the rookie contracts, the Broncos window is now. I mean, they have Sutton and Jeudy under contract. They will have them under contract in 2020 for a combined $4.62 million cap charge. Locke's on his rookie deal. He's making $813,000 this year. Phillip Lindsay's making $750,000. The window is open for Denver. It's now. So by 2022, hopefully they position themselves as a playoff team or maybe even a championship contender, Chad.
We got to say hello and thank you to Stu McPeak jumping in with the $10 super. What is up, Stu? Speaking of just monumental contributors to MHH, you mean the world to us, my friend, and I hope you know that, you are the super chat superstar. You are the first face on the MHH Mount Rushmore. So so consistent. I hope things are going okay for you in your industry at this point as well, my friend.
The OG Stu. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. There's one here from Facebook that caught my attention. Before I grab that, let me grab James here. James is also MHH staff technically. He helps me out a lot on our MHH Superfan Facebook group. James jumping in saying, and he's also a Super Chat superstar, as you guys know. I read Bob Morris's article on milehighhuddle.com earlier, and he mentioned that one reason they did not option bowls was because of all the expiring contracts in 2022, which is something I didn't really consider. Same here, James. And, it's a real consideration. I mean, if they are keeping open the idea or the possibility, Zach, that he will receive a second contract, Garrett Bowles, they would rather have to tackle that monster at the end of 2020 than at the end of 2021.
And you know what? Calling things on equal playing field, Chad, he's way less important than a Drew Lock or a Cortland Sutton or a Phillip Lindsay. If he can be an above average tackle, he vaults right to the top. But as of now, him being inconsistent, unreliable, penalty stricken, just mentally a little unstable on the field, he's not worth the investment right now. Again, it's just good business by Elway. Shrewd and taking his ego out of the question.
J Step jumping in, Super Chat superstar. Check out that freaking profile pic like a boss, repping the brand. We sure appreciate you, my brother.
Yes, thank you.
And you are really, you've really become so consistent, and it means the world to us, my friend. He says, hey guys, hope all is well. What are your thoughts? I heard the new Denver Bronco from Iowa can play safety also. # state of being. So talking about Michael Ojemudia, the third-round cornerback the Broncos took at pick 77. I haven't heard much on that side of things. I think the plan is to play him at corner. But as is the case with most corners, I don't want to oversimplify this, but most corners, it's pretty easy for them to, if they're asked to by coaches, whether by necessity or whatever, play a little safety, because it's actually it's utilizing everything they already know about being a cornerback for the most part, and then cutting half of the demand or requirements, because, you're always facing the line of scrimmage as opposed to a cornerback who has to turn and run with a wide receiver and whatnot, different considerations. But I think if anyone's going to be perceived, Zach, as a potential switch to safety, it's a guy you mentioned in your 53-man roster projection.
Exactly what I was going to say. I don't think they're going to overload Ojemudia right away. I don't think Ed Donatell or Vic Fangio would add more to his plate. Just play him at cornerback. And if there's one guy in the current secondary that would convert, it's Isaac Yiadom. Perfect, contender for that. He keep the play in front of him. I think he'll be better at safety. And Ojemudia, just learn cornerback, learn the outside, learn the slot, and help the Broncos cornerbacks.
Speaking of Tatum Bell, he is a guy who, if I'm not mistaken, has at least 1,000-yard season under his belt. He and Mike Anderson almost were one of those rare running back duos who each eclipsed 1,000 yards in a rushing season. 2005, I want to say. One of them came up just short. I want to say it was Bell, and that Anderson got over, but it might have been vice versa. But the one thing I liked about Tatum Bell, here's what I'll tell you really quick. This is going back a ways for Broncos fans, but one thing I liked about Tatum Bell is, of course, he was drafted with a second-round pick that was acquired via the Clinton Portis Champ Bailey trade. And with that pick, as he arrives in Denver, what jersey number does he take? Clinton Portis is number 26, which showed a lot of cashews, to steal one of Zach's phrases.
Yeah, Tatum kind of precedes my time on the Broncos beat, but from what I remember, he was a good running back, and it's just one name in a long line of just a factory of really good running backs out of Denver, and Lindsay's the latest one, so hopefully he gets his just desserts like every other person before him did as well.
Kenneth wants to know, do you think rookie running backs should have the option of a 2 or 3 year rookie contract so they can get paid? Running backs always seem to get screwed after their rookie deal is up. That's a fair point, Kenneth. Unfortunately, the CBA has been codified and executed, and it's in the books, and that's what's going to govern NFL policy for the next 10 years. But that is a consideration, because you're absolutely right. So many of them, the Todd Gurleys of the world, the Melvin Gordons of the world, few and far between that actually really get to capitalize on a big second contract, because by the time they get there, most of them, it's a lot of reps, a lot of collisions, a lot of, injuries befall them. And so their value each year just diminishes. Then they hit the open market, Zach, and find look at Devontae Booker. not exactly a stud for the Broncos, but Devontae Booker's still sitting out there in free agency. And who knows, maybe if he could have been a free agent after his second year or third year, it might have been different for him.
The NFL would never allow that, but the NFLPA would jump at that. But I am pro player getting money. I am pro business, but they also know what they're signing up for, Chad. Running backs in the NFL, they know it's a devalued position. And if they're smart, they can do more than one thing. They can pass block, they can catch, they can help on specials. They can make themselves valuable. But again, they know what they're getting into. So you can't really structure the rules around one position. You have to do it for other positions like defensive end, outside linebacker. It opens up a whole can of worms. It's just an unfortunate part of the NFL business world.
Ginger Ninja jumping in saying, after Sutton, Judy, and Hamler, it'll be a bloodbath of a fight for the rest of those roster spots. We have a lot of young quality depth. How do you see the wide receiver depth chart filling out? Hashtag MHH gang. I like that hashtag, brother. Well, you're absolutely right. That's the top three moving forward. I think on my initial 53, I included Tim Patrick and Deshaun Hamilton and Juwan Winfrey, but I have since kind of changed my tune in the first written 53-man roster projection of 2020 from yours truly. I did not include Juwan Winfrey. Zach swung me on that point. So I think the two that have the best shot beyond those three to make it, we just mentioned them, Hamilton and Patrick.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cut and dry as well. I just don't see the Broncos keeping 6 wide receivers when they have a pass-catching tight end. They have 2 pass-catching running backs, or at least one in Melvin Gordon. They don't need 6 wide receivers. They'll go a little heavier on offensive line or defensive line. So Winfrey's probably the odd man out, Chad, of the group.
James is pointing out here, I'd probably say if Hamler has a significant role on offense, he won't have a significant role on special teams. That does tend to be how things shake out in the NFL. Coaches are a little reluctant to risk true role players on offense. There's always exceptions to special teams in the high velocity collisions that can occur there. There have been exceptions. For example, in Denver, there was a few times Wes Welker went back and took a punt. One of them was a disaster in New England, no less. Broncos ended up losing that game in I want to say 2013. Anyway, Emmanuel Sanders did it once or twice, but there's a reason why coaches are reluctant to do that.
Yeah, I said this on our 53-man podcast. If he does play specials, it's going to be either kick return or punt return. It's not going to be both, I believe, and offense. But it could be game plan specific as well, Chad. In a game, especially early on in his rookie year, if he's not featured too much on offense, he'll have him more on specials or vice versa. But I wouldn't overload him or subject him to injury unnecessarily.
Buonabis reminding everybody, leave a quick like wherever you're watching this particular podcast live. And even if you end up watching these videos after the fact, make sure you leave a quick like. You guys, it really helps us out. TG, speaking of Super Chat superstars, jumping in, top rope. Really appreciate you, brother.
Thank you,
and
TG.
Still, it's I don't know if you're just ignoring us or if it's just a credit to your character. I don't know. But TG, you still haven't reached out to me, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. I want to send you a little something for just your support over especially these last 6-7 months. So when you get some time, hit me up so I can get your address and some deets and send you a little something. He jumps in, $10 super. Really appreciate you. Yeah. Let's go. Garrett Bowles, Pro Bowl. Show all these haters who you are. It's funny that people think Wilkinson can push Bowles when he gave up 10 sacks. For what it's worth, Zach, I don't believe Wilkinson is a true threat to dethrone Garrett Bowles as the left tackle. I mean, 10 sacks he did relinquish, half a dozen penalties himself. That was at right tackle. Left tackle, I shudder to think. I just don't think he has the foot speed and that twitchy athleticism that you really need to be an upper echelon tackle, whether you're a swing guy or a starter. I mean, even Chris Clark, for example, who replaced Ryan Clady on the 2015 Super Bowl squad, or not 2015, 2013. Super Bowl 48, he at least he wasn't as strong, he wasn't as technically proficient, he was nowhere near as talented as Ryan Clady, but the reason why the Broncos could get by with him at left tackle was because he was very fleet of foot, very athletic, and that's what you need at the tackle position. Of course, it helps when Peyton Manning's unloading the ball in under 2 seconds on every dropback almost, but nevertheless, Wilkinson is not that guy, so I'm kind of, bold prediction right now, Wilkinson, unless it's an injury, is not going to beat out Garrett Bowles for left tackle.
Wilkinson's an awful tackle, but that doesn't make Garrett Bowles a potential Pro Bowler because he can beat out Wilkinson. I don't understand the argument that he's better than the worst tackles. It still makes him pretty bad. And what does it say that the Broncos are putting him in a competition with Wilkinson, knowing how bad Wilkinson is at tackle? Pro Bowl is a major leap. TG, I know you and I really disagree on Garrett Bowles. I'm willing to eat a lot of crow if he turns it around this season, but he has to earn that on a snap-by-snap, week-by-week basis. Let's get to average. Let's get to consistent and reliable before Pro Bowl. That's a little pie in the sky for me. But if it happens, I'll be the first one on this podcast to eat a lot of crow.
He has Pro Bowl talent. It's just, what does he have between the ears? There's
put it all together.
Why. Yes, he's just got to put it all together. Is it completely outside the realm of the plausible? No. Would we all love to see it happen, TG? You bet your ass we would. Buona Beast jumping in to remind everybody, we are on the road on YouTube to 7,000 subscribers. And, of course, as we all know, the number 7 has a special significance to Broncos country. So we're planning something for when we cross that threshold, if you will, on YouTube. And it's worth mentioning. Now, I'm kind of illiterate when it comes to YouTube analytics. I try to figure it out as best I can. But one thing that has jumped out to me, Zach, about how, I mean, most people subscribe to us on YouTube strictly for the live podcast and the podcast after the fact, and the additional videos that we put up are just kind of bonuses for them. And it surprises me how many people who watch these live podcasts, it's about 40% of them are not even subscribed to the channel, and yet they watch almost every live podcast. So if you're one of those people, just subscribe. It's a simple, easy way to help us out. You're watching it anyway. Make sure you subscribe.
Hit that bell. Yeah, definitely say subscribe. But what I love, Chad, lately, when the video first goes up, we have 200, 300 likes now. Before we had 50 or 100, just to see how much the podcast has grown. Getting to 7,000, we were at, when we started this, Chad, what, half of that? 3.5, 4? It's grown exponentially, and we say it all the time, but it's a credit to you guys. It wouldn't be this way without you. We love all of you. We appreciate all of you. So thank you again.
Amen to that. And Nad Ludlow jumping in, $2 super, reminding everybody too.
Thank you, Nad.
Appreciate you, brother. And everyone chipping in. And it's, it's cool to see everyone kind of helping us and taking ownership and putting a little of their own skin in the game to make this thing a success. So we appreciate you guys.
That's right.
Steven as well jumping in, talking about a bona fide MHH, Mount Rushmore member and Super Chat superstar. Love how Drew Lock kept his draft cards. That's another interesting story that came out of last week that was unveiled after the Mile High Mailbag, so after Thursday night. Drew Lock, there's a cool video. I'm not going to go try and find it while we're live. I should have thought of that before, Steve, and had it queued up. But there's a really cool video. You can go find it at milehighhuddle.com. Go check at Mile High Huddle Twitter. You'll find it, of Drew Lock. I can't remember who he was interviewing. Someone NFL Network.
Adams.
Thank you. But he showed that he kept two things. You want to talk about a chip on shoulder, similar to Phillip Lindsay. I mean, even though Drew Lock got drafted and he got drafted in a premium round in the second round, still he was expected to be a first round top 10 pick by a lot of people. And even those who didn't see him as a top 10 pick in terms of the draftniks out there, they still viewed him as a first rounder, worst case, fringe first rounder. He ends up going in the second round. And similar to the agony that Aaron Rodgers dealt with in 2005, where he just sat in the green room watching all of the guys the prospects that walked in there with him just leave one after another as their names are getting called. Drew had to do that through the entire first round. Then he decides, you know what? I came here for the red carpet. I was invited by the NFL because everyone expected me to be a first-round pick. It was humiliating to sit there. I'm not going back for day 2. He hung out in his hotel, ended up getting the call, and the Broncos drafted him, and he ended up going down to the wherever it was it Radio City Music Hall, whatever it was. Nevertheless, went down for the photo ops, and there were some photos that are from Drew Lock actually going down to the draft. But he kept the card, the actual card that the Broncos turned in, making his selection at pick 42, and Zach, the card announcing the trade itself, because the Broncos traded up with the Cincinnati Bengals to take him at 42.
Love it. Yeah, Steven, I appreciate you tagging Chad and I both on that, a few other people as well. I didn't see that until you tagged us. It's just great seeing a quarterback with an alpha personality under center, just the right blend of confidence and humility, just the right size chip on his shoulder. It's so nice to usher in this era of Broncos football with a player like Drew Lock under center. Every video he makes, every interview he gives, you just love him a little more. So very exciting times in Broncos country.
Robert, is the 17-game season starting in 2020? No. My understanding, Zach, correct me if I'm wrong, the new playoff format starts this year.
Mm-hmm.
The 17-game season starts 2021. And then this is something that we had to tamp down at several different points since we did our 53-man roster projection. If I had a nickel for every social media mention saying, well, I thought rosters were 55 now. It's a yes and no proposition. Only 53 guys will make the roster out of training camp. But on game days during the regular season, teams now have the prerogative to call up 2 practice squad players for game day, thus making it 55, but it's only for that game. The next day, the team has to send 2 guys back down to the practice squad. So when you're looking at formulating a roster, it's still 53 guys, but what you do now is you always looked at the practice squad as kind of a reserve in case things happen. You can promote different guys to fill different potential holes. But now there's probably a more intense focus, Zach, on which guys can actually chip in right away if their number got called.
And they tilted in favor of offensive linemen. That helps the Broncos as well, considering how much uncertainty there is at the tackle spots, at some of the backup guard spots. But the way I understand it, Chad, you did a really good job laying that out. The 17-game schedule does start in 2021.
Jody on Facebook, why did Champ Bailey never move to safety to get a few more years? That was something I advocated for, Jody, to be honest with you, following the 2013 season, which was his last year in Denver. Of course, Super Bowl 48. I was hoping it would be a this one's for champ type of victory on the podium, but the Broncos got blown out by the Seahawks. And the Broncos ended up moving on from him after that. I was hoping they would, but it's just not that easy. The player himself has to be open to the idea of switching positions. And Champ Bailey, as arguably the best cover corner in the history of the game, I don't think that was something he ever wanted to seriously entertain. And so for a team like the Denver Broncos, they might have asked him. But even if they did and he wasn't amenable to the option, Zach, there's nothing that can be done.
Water covers 70% of the earth, Chad. Champ Bailey covers the rest. That's why.
That's right, baby. Israel wants to know, when is Bryce Callahan returning from his foot surgery?
Bryce Callahan.
What we have been told is that if OTAs were going off as usual, which would have happened, actually rookie camp would have started already, and then OTAs immediately thereafter, he was expected to be on the field. He would have been on the field. Our answer to you is we're hearing from the team that he's going to be good to go in 2020 and that the bullet they bit finally, putting him on IR, that last procedure to remove a screw in his foot and put in a new everything, that took and that he's going to be okay in 2020. But it's just one of those things, Zach, that until you see it with your own eyes, you can't believe it.
Yeah, who are we talking about, Chad? Who's Bryce Callahan? Who is that? So, yeah, when he gets on the field, and all kidding aside, I do think he'll come back strong. He had a whole year off away from the game. The Broncos are being cautiously optimistic, but if I had to give you a prediction right now, I think he'll be on the field and performing at the level or near the level as he did in Chicago his last year.
King Hicks, you don't have to do this, my brother. He says, I missed 2 shows, so I have to show 2 times the love. You guys are awesome. Keep up the great work. Congratulations, President Buona Beast. # love, # Broncos World. Very
That's
cool,
awesome,
man.
King.
Appreciate you, Dom.
That's so cool. Broncos fans,
It's the truth, man. It is the truth. Liberal Hater jumping in with a $10 super. Thank you, my friend. Really appreciate it. That means the world to us. He says, Lindsay seems like a Bronco for life, even after he retires. I hope they don't wait too long to make him happy. I wish, just like Nick said, give him a little raise just to show, I think he meant Zach, just to show how much Broncos country loves him. Zach, maybe we need to start thank you, Liberal here. Maybe we need to start a campaign on that because John Elway defied tradition, giving Chris Harris an in-season raise to end a holdout without adding any additional years to the term of his contract. That's almost never done ever before in the NFL. Maybe the Broncos could do a little something. Maybe you wait, see what needs still need to be met in terms of, you got your little Evan Mathis fund for training camp if somebody goes down or whatever, but give him a little raise, give him a little something to say to him, hey, your contributions to these last 2 years are not lost on us.
The thing, though, is that Chris Harris Jr. got that raise is because he made waves. He was speaking up. He was talking through the press. He was making, uncertainty happen. He was creating drama, and he kind of forced the Broncos' hand. Phillip Lindsay, unless he gives more interviews like he gave with Terrell Davis where he expresses frustration, it's just not in his style to ask for more money or to be that much outright to extend his hand and be like, pay me. He has more pride than that. He has more shame than that. He's still a young, unproven player in his eyes who wants to show he's better than Melvin Gordon. But I would incentivize him. But to your point, liberal hater, when you talk about homegrown guys retiring with the team, ask Demaryius Thomas how that feels.
Yes, you're right, though. Squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And that's what happened for Chris Harris. He was enough of a pain in the you-know-what that finally always like, all right, let's do something.
Closed mouths don't get fed.
Bradley saying Buona Beast should be the producer you're looking for, Chad. That's something we're considering, my friend. We'll see how it shakes out. But TG jumping in again, another very generous super chat.
That's awesome.
Love you guys. Haven't earned free stuff from you guys.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have.
Yes, you have. We're telling you have, dog. That's the thing. That's the point. So just reach out when you get a second. Shoot me an email, and let's get you a little something.
Yeah. It's
the least Zach and I could do to show you how much we appreciate your contributions, bro.
Even if you are Garrett Bowles' #1 fan, we do love
yeah. Hey, man, I was on that soapbox for a long time too, and I finally came off of the Garrett Bowles, give him times kind of position after that first half of last season when it just the Munchak influence didn't seem to make a difference. The penalties kept coming. I was finally like, all right, let's call a spade a spade. This dude is ridiculous. Then he turns it around week 9 on, and it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. All right, let's see what else we got here since we're butting up really close to our time where we got to get out of here. Bear with us 1 second. Let's grab Jake here, jumping in with the $5 super. Thank you, Jake. And you're another one, Jake, that's become super consistent, a bona fide superstar. Reach out and send me an email so we can give you a little thank you for your support, my friend. milehighhuddle@gmail.com. Hey, guys, would you have a live podcast during a Broncos game? Would rather hear your commentary. And is there anything new coming to the pod? 2 excellent questions. Here's the thing we learned from draft night, first round, is anything we do to live stream any event, henceforth and forever, can never have the actual broadcast in the screen. So is it possible for us to say, all right, everybody turn on the game, and then we live stream and chit chat and talk and break it down as it's happening? That's possible, but would you rather have that, or would you rather have Zach and I coming to you live as soon as the game is over with the gut reaction, breaking it down? We'd be curious to know your thoughts, but that's how we've approached it, is the gut reaction immediately thereafter. But we're open to the idea of perhaps live streaming during games. We'll just have to see how the season plays out, Zach.
The other option was halftime streams, Chad. We kind of kicked around that idea a couple of times, hopping on for halftime for 10 minutes or so to recap the first half. But I like diving in right after. We have the full picture. We have the final result. It's pure emotion. It's just pure raw reaction. So I think that's the direction we're going to go. But we're always open, like you said, to suggestions.
The other thing is, in terms of what's new coming to the pod, now that the draft is over, we're going to have more time. This is something that Zach and I have discussed. In fact, this is a conversation I had with Buona Beast as well. Things are slowing down a little. We want to start thinking of other things that we can do with the podcast, with the channel, different things. And so we'll be coming out with some information on some updates on that here in the near future. So stay tuned. But one of those things, Zach, was going to be like breaking down film. Problem is, you deal with film, you deal with copyright claims. And as a monetized channel, the reason why, for example, we can accept super chats is because Mile High Huddle is a monetized channel. We have to balance our content wish list, for example, being able to stream a game or whatever, watch film, break it down with you guys, with the fact that copyright strikes could end the channel. So we're still trying to roll with those punches and investigate the best possible method. But let's grab Dr. Strangelove here, jumping in with a $10 super.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, brother. Hey, guys, love the show. Sounds like Deontay Spencer is on the outside looking in with KJ Hamler on the roster. We've seen way too many fumbled punts by rookie speedsters over the years. Good point, especially looking at you, Isaiah McKenzie, right? People wanted to say that when KJ Hamler was selected, it was Deshaun Hamilton put on notice, but I think more than anything, it was Deontay Spencer. But getting back to something James said earlier in this podcast, I think it really becomes contingent on how much of a factor the coaches see Hamler in this offense, because if he's a guy that's garnering, let's just say 5 to 10 touches or targets or whatever in a game, do you really want to risk that to the heat-seeking missile life of being a punt returner? Maybe you'd rather just carry Deontay Spencer and not have to worry about it.
I like Spencer. I think he's a good player, but we all loved him as a punt returner so much last year. It was recency bias, Chad, because the Broncos punt returners before him were so bad. So we just wanted to see a guy who could hold on to the ball and maybe get 5-10 yards, and that's what Spencer did. But I'm not going to hold up a roster spot for that one guy. I'm not going to keep him on the roster so he can run a punt back or two. Put Hamler back there, put Judy back there, put anyone back there that you want, but don't hold a guy for one minuscule role. It's just not good roster management.
Guys, we only have time for a couple of more. A quick answer, TJ, is he wants to know, are they still limited to 46 active players on game day? That number has been bumped to 48. However, one of those 2 new additional guys that you can activate on game day has to be an offensive lineman. So that's good. That gives coaches a lot more options, but it does come with a few limitations. Oh, my goodness. Justin jumping in from the top.
Wow. From the
very
stratosphere.
generous.
Thank you, Justin.
That just blows us away, bro. I mean, seriously, if I didn't have hundreds of people watching this thing live, I would be speechless. Seriously. That means everything to us, Justin. And we really appreciate your generosity.
No words. Thank you so much, Justin.
He says, I've missed a few pods off the night shift right into a grind. # blessed. Speaking of mountains with faces on it, who would you put on a Mount Rushmore for the most influential Broncos? Want some OG names here on this one, Priest. # state of being. # let it breathe. # I am on Twitter. Okay. Justin, if you're on, I'm trying to think. Do I know your Twitter handle? You might already be following me, and I might already be following you. But just to be on the safe side tonight, as soon as you're done with this pod, reach out and ping me on Twitter so I can 100% connect the dots between who you are on YouTube and who you are on Twitter. But, man, what a super chat. Thank you so much, Justin.
Yes, thank you, Justin.
All right. All-time Mount Rushmore. You start with John Elway. You have to put in the franchise. Floyd Little. You have to well, if we just keep it to 4. Elway, Floyd Little, Champ Bailey. Do you put Peyton on that?
I don't know that. More of a Colt.
Fair.
Yeah, I think it's more of a Colt. It's got to be lifelong Broncos for the most part.
It would either be, for me, Terrell Davis or Steve Atwater.
I was going to say Atwater. He revolutionized safety. Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Justin, that's one that in a perfect world, I'd like to have a little more time to think out some, more clear thought process, make sure it's the right 4 guys. But I can tell you for sure, 3 of those names would be Elway, Little, and Champ. And I know there are some guys going way back that omits, including, the Orange Crush guys, the 80s teams that went to 3 Super Bowls, early 90s, early 2000s even. But if there's only 4 guys, unfortunately, we have to leave a few on the outside, more than a few deserving guys on the outside looking in. So, all right, guys.
Sharp too, maybe.
He would definitely have to be a consideration. One of the, 7 Hall of Famers? Either way, very, very limited few. Liberal Hater jumping back in, $20 super. Thank you, my friend. Means everything to us. He says, I'm the number 2 Bulls fan, I guess. If you look at our offensive weapons, I can't see us not scoring 30 a game. Hey, dude, there's nothing wrong with supporting Garrett Bowles. I mean, there's a lot to like about Garrett Bowles. First and foremost, if you're a Broncos fan, he is a Bronco. He was also a first-round pick. You want him to succeed. But you just also have to balance your expectations a little bit just so you don't get crushed if he ends up being the recidivist, the repeat offender forever. Offensive weapons, here's the thing, Zach. it's a lot easier said than done getting to 30 points a game in the National Football League.
I was going to say, only the Ravens last year cracked the 30s. I think they averaged 33.9. The 49ers were second at 29.9. The Saints and Bucks at 28.6. And the Chiefs at 28.2. If the Chiefs are scoring 28.2 a game, it's going to be tough to crack the 30s. But what they averaged last year, had the Broncos 17. I mean, if they can get to 24, 25, that's a touchdown difference is a major win. So if Locke can get them there, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, the defense gave up 19 a game. That was with all of the imperfections of figuring out Fangio's scheme in its first year, injuries to Chubb, injuries to Callahan.
Yeah.
19. So if you're averaging more than 19 points a game as an offense, the odds tell us that you're going to win a lot more games than you're going to lose. There will be the shootout games, and there will be those, offensive firework games, but just stacking one more touchdown on top of last year is going to equal a few more wins. TG jumping back in again. Thank you, TG.
Thank you, TG.
I'm not a Garrett Bowles fan. But stats show he is a solid left tackle, and it doesn't help him out that he has a QB that moves like turtles or runs towards pressure. And that's one thing, Zach, that I'll say to and I don't say this to patronize TG, but it is true. Interesting comment here. I'm going to grab it and say, but it is true, Zach, that he hasn't been handed exactly the easiest task. Who's he protected? 2017, it was Trevor Siemian, a little bit of Paxton, if I'm not mistaken. I could be getting that wrong. You're right. Osweiler and Paxton. 2018, he had Keenum the whole time, and at least he had the stability of Keenum the entire time. A lot of downsides to Keenum, but one quarterback. Flacco, yeah, I don't envy any tackle's job trying to protect for that cat. Brandon Allen definitely made things easier on Bowles and Wilkinson, but Locke is where it really turned, because Locke is a point guard that can sense the pressure, move, and do what he needs to do to kind of evade things. As long as that pressure is not coming up the gut and it is edge pressure that the tackles can kind of run him around the turnstile, Locke can step up and do his thing.
No, he hasn't been handed the best quarterback, Chad, but he's been consistently hurting the team no matter what quarterback he's played with. It's been the same boneheaded penalties, the same holding, the same personal fouls, taking points off the board. He is the common denominator. So to say he's solid, I don't think he's earned that reputation yet. I think he's inconsistent and below average. If he can get to average or solid, the Broncos will be a really, really good team. But until he gets there, I'm not giving him any title. It has to be earned.
Charlie says, Chad, Perna said he saw you at a Bronco game and you were Flacco-faced.
I think I've heard this story.
I can neither confirm nor deny this particular report. It's funny because the game that you're actually talking about there, Charlie, was the 2015 Broncos-Patriots game in which Osweiler started in the snow. It was a Sunday night game, and the Broncos won in overtime with that awesome C.J. Anderson romp, the toss left. That game, though, we had a bunch of cool things planned, Brandon and I. He was still MHH staff at the time, and we had some really cool plans for that day for tailgating that we were going to turn into even a little content for the site and whatnot. And because it was so cold, I want to say, I know it was below 18, and it was snowing all day long, and then it was a night game. Those plans ended up getting thrown out the window. No one was hanging out in the snow in an 18-degree weather. So we ended up just going and hanging out at a bar and meeting up with Brandon very temporarily in the stadium once, literally right before it kicked. But I'll tell you, I got a little bit of, a buzz on. Is that the right thing to say? But I think I handled myself well. That's all I'll say about that.
You had your day.
That's right. David jumping in, $5 super.
Thank you,
Appreciate
David.
you, brother. What position will Jarrell Casey play? Defensive end or defensive tackle?
And
he's a guy, Zach. One of the great things about him is you can move him around and do a lot on the defensive line, but he's going to project as one of your starting 5-tech defensive ends.
Yeah, you got Ajim playing defensive tackle. Christian Covington can play tackle. Purcell's obviously the nose tackle. So, yeah, Casey's going to play the end spot, vacated by Derek Wolfe and Adam Gotsis.
Dropped your pocket jumping in with a $15 super. Thank you, my friend.
Appreciate you.
If you're on Twitter, reach out and help me connect the dots here so we can shout you out. He says, do you think Denver is considering moving Reisner to left tackle? I remember that being mentioned a lot during his draft process. Thanks. Keep up the good work. It's Reisner moving to left tackle as an OSHIT type of contingency. It's not something they want to do. It's not something that they plan for. It's Bowles gets benched or gets hurt, and Wilkinson falls flat on his face. Hey, Dalton, we need you to kick out to left tackle, and we're going to bring Netani Muti in at left guard, and let's just try and patchwork this thing and make it work. He has experience playing at tackle. He did, the last 2 years he played at Kansas State, exclusively right tackle. Very good, but there were some questions based on his measurables, whether or not he was really suited for tackle. And I think the fact that at the next level, and the fact that the Broncos played him at left guard tells you how they view him ultimately.
I think you're right, Chad. He's a better guard than tackle, and maybe in a Band-Aid scenario during the 2020 season, he might kick out to tackle, like you said, if there's an injury or ineffectiveness. But the more likely scenario, if Bowles bombs this season, is the Broncos just signing a left tackle, trading for one next offseason, or using the first-round pick on the guy and truly solidifying that spot.
Discount Audio and Wheels, DA Dub, jumping in with the $5 super. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you.
I hope everything's going well with the store. Hope you're weathering the storm okay with what you do there, my friend. Really appreciate that. Keep up the good work. We'll do our best. Wow. Charlie saying, far be it from me to deny anybody a few brewskis, Chad. I don't think it was brewskis, Charlie, that was the story of the day. Something called Fireball. I don't know. Never heard of that.
Wow.
Goodness gracious.
G-Dog.
Our friend Dale showing the love. It just
ridiculously amazing. It's unbelievably amazing. Dale, there's no words, man. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate you. And those of you that have been longtime listeners / live stream contributors on the pod know that this isn't the first time Dale has been unbelievably generous on Super Chat. And all I can tell you, Dale, is it means everything to Zach and I. And I know we're not just saying that. But, man, thank you so much, my friend. He says, great job again, Chad and Zach. When all is said and done, how can we not be over the top fired up going into this season? So much to be excited about on both sides of the ball. Zach, Dale, thank you so much, my friend. Dude, that just is so cool. That's one thing that was getting lost on people who were, our draft grades not being 100% perfect. Judas Priest.
Wow.
My goodness, guys.
Finish your thoughts.
You're going to bring a tear to my eye here.
Wow, TG.
People were getting caught up on the fact that we gave the Broncos an imperfect draft grade. However, the one thing that both of us maintained is the Broncos got better, and they got better by a stretch, Zach. The wide receiver influx of talent, the speed at tight end, bolstering the interior of the offensive line, to say nothing of what they did defensively in free agency and in the draft. This team on paper got a lot better. So, yes, we're excited to see how it all unfolds. We just want them to take it from the figurative on paper stage into the real gridiron and translate that to actual football.
Out of theory and into practice. Absolutely agreed. And Dale, thank you so much. We talk about Mount Rushmore, Chad, and we can't fit 4 or 5 people from our community on there. We need just rows and rows and rows. And Dale, you're definitely up there. But I can't recall more excitement for a Broncos season, maybe in Peyton's first year or after 2015 when they were defending the title, Chad. There hasn't been this much tangible excitement and hope in Broncos country since then. And it all starts with Locke. And the Broncos have done their job building around him this season. They have a good defense in place. Win or lose, and I predict a lot of winning this year, it's going to be a fun, exciting season. And we haven't said that about the Broncos in a while.
How unbelievable is this? This TG has already super chatted at least twice, and this marks the 3rd triple-digit super chat of the night from the community. It blows me away. Seriously, it blows me away. All I can tell you is thank you. It just means the world to us, TG.
And we're going to get you something, whether you like it or not, TG. Let us know. You pick something out from the store. Hit us up, milehuddle@gmail.com, and we will definitely hook you up. That is unbelievable.
Please do so. Dale and Justin as well in the triple digits tonight. Thank you, guys. All of our Super Chat superstars. Keeping the lights on at the Huddle Up podcast.
David, look at that.
David as well, being very generous. Thank you, David.
Thank you, David.
And been really cool to connect with you on Twitter, my friend. He says, if Bowles does tank, who do you think is a good left tackle in the 21 draft or 21 free agency? David, I'd have to circle back to you on that one. I'm not like Nick and Eric and Carl and Lance that already knows all of the top players at every position in the next year's class. That I don't know. And as it relates to free agency, that's something that would have to be researched by yours truly. I don't mind maybe taking this super chat and turning it into a written article. I can get back to you on the free agent class and say, look, what if it doesn't work out with Bowles and he doesn't turn the corner in his contract year and the Broncos have to let him go? Who are some of the free agent options the Broncos could bring in to kind of stopgap, draft someone as well, develop? But unfortunately, I wish I could answer that to you right now in perfect form, but that one's going to have to be on the back burner. But thank you, David. I'm
trying to pull up Spot Track right now, but it always takes so long to load. But
I don't page.
I don't know about the free agent class, but I do believe that the tackle class in it isn't as deep as it was this year. So if they're going to replace Bowles, which I think they will next offseason, they're going to trade or sign a veteran, be done with the projects at tackle, have an experienced guy. I know Alejandro Villanueva from the Steelers is going to be a free agent, but he's not, to me, a long-term staple at the position. He's a holdover guy. So I'd have to look over the class. And like you said, Chad, maybe we can make an article out of it or do a pod on it, something.
But James here bringing up the reality that there's plenty of room at MHH Mount Rushmore. Absolutely. Let's grab this one last super since we're playing on borrowed time here with the internet gods. Big Daddy Kane, speaking of Super Chat superstars, good to see you, my friend.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that. He says, glad I catch you guys live. I always watch the following day at work. All your content is awesome. # football priest. That's cool, dude. That means the world to us. However you listen to the pods is awesome to us. It just, we pinch ourselves each and every day. And whenever we can catch you live and you can contribute to the actual conversation, Big Daddy Kane, we appreciate that. You should reach out to us, though. You and David Kilgore as well. Both of you guys reach out to me, milehighhuddle@gmail.com. You guys are consistent superstars. So I know, Big Daddy Kane, you can't catch everything live. It seems to me every time you are live, you are supporting the cause. So reach out to me. Let me get your deets, and we'll send you a little something. Buona Beast, last thing, guys. Then we got to get out of here for tonight. Everyone leave a like on your way out. Echo that from Zach and I. Remember, 7 pods, 1 every day. Also check out the articles on milehighhuddle.com and get your gear. Yep, that's right. Don't forget. I'll show you. This is how easy it is. You don't have to remember anything complicated. HuddleUpPod.com. Not HuddleUpPodcast, HuddleUpPod.com. But guys, that has to do it for tonight. Thank you for joining us, each and every one of you. And a mile-high salute to our Super Chat superstars, each and every one of you. Your generosity is just unbelievable. We appreciate you so much. Follow the show on Twitter @HuddleUpPod. And while you're at it, @MileHighHuddle. And then also my partner here, Zack Kelberman, @KelbermanNFL. Myself, @Chad and Jensen. And then stay tuned, guys, because we'll be back in the saddle tomorrow night, 6:15 Mountain, 8:15 Eastern. We'll see if maybe we get a little bit of news tomorrow to digest, talk about. If not, we'll probably talk a little bit about what Drew Lock had to say on that same conversation with the fan on Friday, talking about how he may have influenced, even beyond the Albert O pick, the Broncos 2020 NFL draft. So stay tuned for that. Let me make sure, one last thing. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. All right, I think we're good. All right, guys, we'll get out of here for tonight. We love you. We appreciate you. For Zach, have a great start to your week, my friend.
You as well, Chad. I will see you tomorrow night, and you might want to look into this. That might be the problem there.
The hoodie strikes again.
Yeah, that's right.
Guys, I am actively, I hate being the culprit because I'm the guy that's always hammering on all the podcast hosts about being hardline plugged into their router. I don't know what it is. I'm going to have to call my provider and say, hey, why am I having these issues, especially when I hardline? I don't know. I'll see what I can do. Thanks for your patience, though, guys, and for everything that you do for us. We'll see you tomorrow night. For Zach, I'm Chad. Talk to you then.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.